Just wanted to come on a little early so I can make sure I have all of my channels set up tonight. So just bear with me. Let's see. Okay, it looked like it came up. Because tonight is a special segment, and I wanted to make sure that everything is working right. I don't know if you can see me in my group. Can you see me in the Reflections for the Soul group? Looks like it's showing there. Let me go to the group on my computer. I'm gonna be starting in just a few minutes. I just want to come on a little early. I need to get this. Okay. I need to share this. I need to copy the link. Guys, I'm going to do this thing. I need to put the link in here. Okay. So they can join me within the group there. I wanted to come on my other platform because the other platform allows me to see all of the chats, which I usually can't see if I'm just in one particular area in Facebook. So let me get my chat up so that I can see everyone. Okay. Good evening. Good evening. This is Anita Kelly, and I'm here again. I'm here again. This is my Monday night that I set aside to try to encourage someone. And this is a week that we are honoring fathers this week. Let me know if you cannot hear me. I'm hoping that the sound is coming through. I'm hoping that we're having a perfect night. Let me turn it up here. I could probably check it myself. I can check it myself. Let me know if you can. Yeah, I think I hear it. Okay. So this is what you do when you're a one-person team. You have to go and check everything yourself, and that's okay. That's okay. God graces us for what we have to do, right? We are graced for what we have to do. I really want to have some dialogue tonight, and I really would like to have some people talking back to me tonight. Fathers is such a big deal, right? It seems like we overlook them, but tonight I want to have a heart-to-heart discussion, and I want to talk about fathers. But first, I need to tell you about AK Ministries, and you're gonna be hearing and seeing more from AK Ministries as we go along in the year. I'm just trying to. God is challenging me this year to complete some things that I started, and so that's what my goal is, to bring my for real back, trying to build it back up, and then hopefully start to be able to have some events as we move along. You begin to know more about me and the things that really I'm passionate about, but AK Ministries is a ministry that I'm passionate about in my heart. It helps me to work with people, as we all go through things, and allow, uh, even though we all go through different circumstances, but there's a gem inside of everybody. I think there's some good in everybody. Sometimes it's harder to see in some than others because you may know their past, but there's some good, I believe, in everybody. And so what this ministry is about is cultivating, which means you got to work and you got to dig, right? Cultivating is not on the surface. When you cultivate, you're going beneath the surface. You're mixing up the soil, so to speak, and you're looking for that gem that's inside, which means that sometimes life has presented itself with so many things against you, and sometimes you got to dig deep for healing and for restoration and all these things so that you can get back to being who you are. So what I envision in my mission here is to be an inspiration to encourage others to live purposefully, to allow life's experiences to strengthen your soul, not tear you down. Life experiences, if they didn't take you out, they can make you stronger, they make you wiser, they make you better, And so, to allow life experiences to strengthen your soul and cultivate you into the gem that God intended for you to be, and shining bright through all circumstances, no matter what you find yourself going through. You can still shine bright through those circumstances. Glory to God. You can still be all that God created you to be. You are a designer's original. And so sometimes things in our life happen and we say, well, why did these things happen? Well, sometimes they're for our better good. It just may take us a while to see that and understand that. So my mission is to foster internal healing. I'm always talking about the man or the woman in the mirror, being truthful and upfront with who you are, where you've been, what situations you found yourself in. Some things we cause on ourselves, and some things, we are just a product of some things that happen, but we have to take ownership in whatever is going on in our life. If it's affecting us, we got to deal with whatever it is, and why is it affecting us the way that it is. So it is to foster internal healing from life's most challenging experiences, to strengthen the soul and encourage wholeness through acceptance and forgiveness. AK Ministries empowers individuals to recognize the origin of their disappointments and pain. And that's hard because a lot of times we try to block it out. We don't want to deal with it. But if you want to be healed, you have to recognize where these things come from. I say the origin of your disappointments and pain. Where did they originate? Where did they come from? Accept ownership, and that is tough for a lot of people, to accept ownership of personal triggers. Things happen and they cause us to have these, what we want to call triggers in our life, things that go on in our life, and we say that because of a certain situation that we might have found ourselves in. Now, if you get or hear or smell or see something close, and it might bring up that thing that happened in your life. And so sometimes it may change our personality or attitude in that moment, right? So we have to accept ownership of our personal triggers. We have to learn how to deal with these things, and not let them take over how we feel. And sometimes we can be mean to people that had nothing to do with it, only because they triggered us. Some people say, well, I was triggered. Well, you are responsible for your triggers. You are responsible whether you're going to let your triggers continue to control your life, or are you going to get control of those triggers and learn how to deal with them and understand when they come up what you need to do so that you can get past that, and to accept the complete healing from Jesus Christ, to accept the complete healing from Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ comes to heal us, but sometimes we want to hold on to the pain, to the discouragement, to the disappointment, that we don't allow that perfect and that full, complete healing from Jesus Christ to do what He sent it to do, because we want to hold on to it. So we have to accept the complete healing from Jesus Christ. And we have to dig deep within our soul and let the gem that is inside of us to shine through. And that is what AK Ministries is about. And that's why most of my podcasts or conversations are about healing, or about looking at that person in the mirror, not so much someone else, but sometimes we have to look at ourselves, and then allow God to do what He's going to do in our life. And so, Father's Day, we're going to talk about it because uh, a lot of people have mixed emotions when it comes to Father's Day, depending on what their experience has been with the Father. So, we're going to try to touch on a lot of these different areas and see if uh, we can still get to a place where we can honor fathers. And that's what this is about, honoring fathers. It's also about healing father wounds. We have some that are wounded, and we're going to call them tonight father wounds. And then we also want to look at men, and we want to look at them in a different light, because men, um, a lot of them carry a weight that they never will uh, voice. They never will be verbal about. So, men are unique individuals. They are very different. I find than women, obviously. I've been married for 40 years. I've been fortunate to have what I would call a good father, a father that was present, a father that showed up, a father that took care of his family, that made his family feel important, a father that always listened, a father that was always teaching. And so I understand that not everyone had that. So I'm not here to brag or to boast, but I'm here to also give honor to where honors due, but also understand that everyone did not have the same experience. Because I had such a great father, it's easy for me to see God Almighty as a good father, because I had an example of what that means. But I do understand that there are different experiences out there. And from teaching Christian development for so long, I learned so much from people. We have had a discussion one time. We were talking about the good father, and it was a chapter in the workbook we had, and it was talking about a good father, and uh, having different ones describe to them what a good father meant. And so that was a very life-changing experience for me, going around the room and allowing people to just share and understanding for real that everyone did not have that same experience. And so one young lady, and I'll never forget, she said, well, I didn't have a good father. And so we had more dialogue. And so she was having a problem seeing God as a good father, because she didn't know what a good father was supposed to look like, because she didn't have that experience. And so that opened my eyes to so much, and I listened to people, and I had someone else tell me this didn't have anything to do with fathers, but it had something to do with life. And I tell this story a lot because it gave me so much insight into people that have not had the same experiences. And so it allowed me to be more open. And when I'm talking to people and understanding that everybody didn't walk the same road that I traveled, right, and didn't have the same experiences that I had. And some people are still searching. And so we were in a parking garage, like, say, 7 levels up. And I was taking a young lady home one day in my car, and I knew she had, her past was a lot different from mine. But we're in the car and we're just talking, and I'm coming down, we're leaving out of this parking garage. And so she said, didn't we just do this? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She said, didn't we just do this? I said, do what? Wasn't we just right here? So to her, we coming down the parking garage, but it all looked the same, you know. And so you're coming down, level 6 looked like level 7, 5 looked like 6, 4 looked like 5. So to her, we were just going around the bend and like we were going in a circle. And so I understood us going that route because we were coming out. She had never been in a parking garage to understand that you got to go down all these levels before you can get out. But what did that do? It didn't make me laugh at her. It made me look and understand. And there's lessons like that and conversations like that that God used to open me up and understand that there's a lot of people out there that just need to be touched, that just need to learn some things, right? And not to be judged and to have patience with people. And so I said, okay. And so what she said to me is what was profound. It was not the parking garage. She said, Anita, everybody's not been where you've been. And when she said that, and I say, what do you mean? Because I'm thinking that I offend her. But what she was saying is, I'd never been in the parking garage. I didn't never had this experience before. So to me, it looked like the same thing. And so being a teacher of the gospel, right? So that really helped me in my teaching to really keep things as basic as I can. Not not saying that people are hard to understand, but I'm saying that people don't have the same experiences, and I can't teach off of, thinking everyone have the same experiences that I have, but being open to hear these other experiences and then seeing how I can still use that and help them understand. I had to try to help the young lady understand, well, what do you think a good father should be? If you never had the experience, then in your thinking, what is a good father? Can you tell me what you what you picture as being a good father, since you didn't have that personal experience? And so that gave us a place to start with. And she really didn't know because she never had the experience. So to say, what do I think a good father should look like or be? She said, I have no idea. So that means I had to start from a different level, right? And to try to get her to understand that God is not that same kind of father that may have abandoned you, rejected you, or whatever it is that you feel, right? So then, so I was able to start using that. So tonight I want to kind of, use the same thing. I give honor to the father that I had, and I thank God for the man that showed up for me, and he taught me some things in life, and it helped me to see what kind of man I wanted to be in my life, right? What kind of man I wanted to be was someone that my father would be pleased with, because he would have some of the same characteristics that my father had, because they were good and they were family oriented, you see. So I had a roadmap, I had a guide, right, to help me when I decided to start dating and how to choose the men in my life. And so I thank God for that. So I didn't have a lot of boyfriends, what I mean. I had a couple, but because I was always such a good catch, right? So they never want to let me go, right? So so I can think that if I want. But anyway, but I had an idea going in what kind of man that I wanted to have in my life. And so with that, I do understand that everyone didn't have that. So let's see. But we can still honor. There was an uncle, there was a grandfather, there was a boss at work, there was someone, I believe, that God placed in your life to help you get from one phase to another. And it may not have been that biological father, it could be a stepfather. It, like I said, it could be an uncle, it could be a coach. And so tonight we're going to honor those who were present in our life, even if it was just for a season. And we have to realize that God give us what we need at that time that we needed. And some people are lifetime and some people are seasonal. So we're going to look at this tonight. And so I know Father's Day bring up all different types of emotions for different people. And I realize that some of us are celebrating, and for others, they're reflecting. For some, it might be grief. You might have just recently lost your father, or he may have never been present in your life. And so that's still a form of grief that we go through. It could be disappointment, it could be that you need healing. So, Father's Day, again, I do understand that it brings about different emotions. So let's talk heart to heart tonight. Okay. So, as we're talking about fathers, and we're not going to focus all night on pain, on absence, on the disappointments, or the unanswered questions, but we will touch them because they are important, because we're dealing with all types of emotions out here tonight. Some people honoring fathers that really showed up. Some are grieving fathers who are no longer here. Some are healing from fathers who were present physically but absent emotionally. They were here, but they were not. They didn't give you their whole self. They couldn't give you the emotional part of them. And so we're gonna touch on that tonight, because that's not always the easy thing, right? Because they go through stuff too. Men go through a lot of things too. So some fathers are carrying pain that they never learned how to talk about. There are some things that they've gone through that they may have never talked about, but because of who a man is supposed to be and the way they're taught, and they're not to be vulnerable, and they're not to cry, they're not to show emotions and all these. But when I see some men that just be crying, there's some men that'll cry about anything. I love them so much. And why I love them so much? Because they know how to be vulnerable. They know how to show you what they're feeling on the inside, because not every man can do that. But there are some that can and can cry more than some of the ladies, and it is perfectly okay with me, right? So we're gonna start off by giving honor where honor due, for those fathers who show up, those fathers who provide, those fathers that protect, those fathers that teach, the ones who are always sacrificing, and the ones that show up even when they tired and don't feel like it. They just show up. So we want to give honor to those fathers. And we understand that you may not always be emotionally expressive. A lot of men don't express how they feel. A lot of them just don't, and then they're not um, groomed to do that. But it doesn't mean that they don't care, because they're not showing emotions the way you want them to, or the way that you think they should. Does not mean that something's not churning on the inside. But they don't always know how to express that, because that wasn't something that's not something that's necessarily a part of their makeup. So um so we can't hold that against them, because they show us that they love us and the things that they do for us. They show us that they love us, by the things that they do for us. Sometimes my husband come home with chocolate, no, not chocolate chip, coconut cookies. Oh, I was thinking about you today. I say, so you brought me some coconut cookies. Yeah, it's a thought that he had about me in that moment, and picked up something that he know that I like. Is showing up. Is the things that they do, even though they may not say, "Yeah, I was thinking about you so much today." You may not say that, but they're gonna do it, show it in their actions somewhere, right? And so, be grateful. Don't complain all the time. Just be grateful. Whether it's your husband, whether it's your dad, whoever this man is in your life, you know what I mean? When they're trying to show you that they had a thought about you, take it with gratitude, even if it's something you may not even want right now. That's really beside the point, has nothing to do with it. But he had a thought about you and he acted on that. Let's be grateful for those things. All right, so I want to talk for a minute about those fathers who, for society, say that they must provide, that they must protect us, they must lead us, they must be the fixers, that they must stay strong. But society doesn't teach them how to process the pain that they might be going through. Society doesn't teach them that, how to process the pain that they're going through. So I recognize tonight that many fathers can carry pressure, and they carry it without even speaking it. It's unspoken pressure. You know, they expect it to always just be strong, but not to show their vulnerability. You know, they always are expected to show up and be present, but they're not allowed to show that they just might be a little overwhelmed, especially their provider. And then we think they never get tired. You know, sometimes I tell my husband, sometimes I just wish you would just sit down. You come in from work and he's steady going, he's moving around all the time. I almost don't even want to tell him if it's something that I need him to look at for me, because he's going to do it. And he's going to do it almost right away if he's not doing something else. But he would try to do it before that night is over. You know, it's always. So some things I don't tell him that I need right away because I want him to rest. Because if there's something that he thinks needs to be done, he's going to try to do it. And I say sometimes you just need to come home and rest. But that's not the man that I married. That's not my girl's father. He doesn't do that. And so we have to understand that there's some that are just fixers. They think they're supposed to fix everything. And they are expected. They think they're expected to fix everything. But sometimes I just want them to just relax. You know, men are taught how to carry responsibility, but they're not taught how to carry the emotions that they have. They're not taught to be strong, but still let people know that they need support. You know, sometimes we say that our fathers are distant, or, you know, these men are distant in our life, but that may not be the case. And then we think they don't care because they seem to be a little distant. But, you know, they're not always vocal, like I said, and they're not always going to tell you what's going on. So sometimes they just need that moment, because they might be having a moment of feeling overwhelmed, but they won't necessarily tell you that they're overwhelmed. They won't necessarily express that. You know what I mean? So you have to learn how to read them, you know, and understand when sometimes you just have to be silent. Sometimes you just have to be supportive. You know, just reading that man, whether it's your father or whether it's your husband, you know, whoever this man, bring them something to drink, a glass of cold water or something sometimes, you know what I mean? Just because, not because they asked for it, but just because, you know, you're looking at them like something's going on today, but they're not going to express it. So then you turn in, you know, you change your role a little bit, right? And you kind of bump it up a little bit, right? And so you kind of cater to them in a way that they don't see that you're really catering to. But, you know, God gives us wisdom in how to do things, you know, because men suffer, but they do it quietly. You know, a lot of women are very verbal about the things that they're going through, the struggles that they're having, but a lot of men keep that on the inside of them, so they struggle in silence. And so it's an emotional silence that they carry, you know. And so some are raised that way. They're just raised that believe that men crying is weakness. And, you know, ladies, if you raising young men, please stop telling them that. You know, let's not put that in their mind, you know, in their head, and thinking that if they cry is just showing some kind of weakness. That is not true. You know, and that if they're vulnerable, people can figure you out or whatever. All these things that have been put in the minds of our men folk, and it's making them harder, and it make other people that love them think that they're being distant when they're not. They're just trying to channel this emotional uh, silence that they're going through because of something, that's going on that they haven't found a way to actually just speak about it. And so some men, fathers, even carrying wounds from their childhood. Every man didn't have a good father figure in their life either. And so some of them are carrying wounds just like we are as women, carrying wounds from things that occurred in their childhood. And so they may be trying to have children and father children and be the best father they can, and they still carrying the pain and how they were fathered or not fathered, you see. But they may not speak that. I look at my husband, and he has a father that's living but was never really a part of his life. Even today, right, we understand who we are. I know you're my dad, I'm your son, but there's no personal relationship there, right? And so I hope he don't mind me sharing his business, but he turned that into saying, I'm going to be just the opposite of what my father was to me. And so I'm going to be the best father I can. But he was doing that, right, to overcome the pain that he felt because his father was not present for him. So he said, I'm going to be the best father. I'm not going to be like him. So I think he became a father to his daughters, uh, showing up to be the father that he didn't have or wish he had. So I believe he's playing the role through himself. That's mine. Don't tell him I said that. But that's what I believe, that he decided he was going to be the best father he could be. And he was able to do that because he was able to start from zero, saying, I didn't have that, but this is what I desired. And if I have children, this is who I'm going to be. I'm going to show up. But because his father didn't show up, God still made sure he had men in his life to show up, to teach him what it was to be a good man and to be a good father. And that came through uncles that he had. So God still put someone in his life to pick up the slack from his own father. And these men had girls, they didn't have sons. At least two of them. They didn't have sons, they had daughters. So they were able to take him as their son, so to speak, their nephew, and just start imparting things in him that they would have imparted into their own son. So God always have someone that's going to look out for you and to make sure that you still can become the best of who you want to be, regardless of the example that you had, regardless to what pain that you might be working through in your own life. But you can still be a successful dad. You can still show up, even though others didn't show up for you. Let that be the fuel to say, I'm going to be the best dad. I'm going to be the best husband that I can. Not because I had the example from my father, but God allowed me to see it through others, right? And that took time with him to help him become the man. They taught him how he should treat a lady. He watched how they treated their families. And so he was able to get enough information to decide what kind of man he wanted to be. You know what I mean? So that's really digging into your inner strength, because men tend to struggle silently, more silently than it seems that some women do. So some men are trying to operate, and you guys are doing a wonderful job. If you are out there trying to show up and you're doing the best that you can, I just pray that those in you and around you will affirm you sometime, let you know that you're doing a good job, thanking you for being a good father or brother or uncle, right, for someone else, even though it seemed like your own dad didn't show up for you, but God didn't leave you an orphan because he allowed someone else to show up for you. Some will never hug, so they don't know how to give that emotional hug. I mean, to be emotional and to show that through hugging and through touch. Sometimes over time we can teach them, right? Over time that wall breaks down, and over time those kids, if they start becoming a father or becoming a big uncle, these children gonna come and they're gonna make you hug them, and it helps to break down those walls so that they will learn to embrace that emotional side of them. Now, if I'm wrong, somebody tell me. You guys can talk to me and help me to know if you agree with me or if you don't agree with me. I want to go here. I don't see. Um, some people were never told, some men were never told that by their fathers that they were proud of them, you know. Uh, some just didn't have it. But, some men, even if you know who your father is or was, and maybe he was present, but maybe he was emotionally checked out. So we have to look at all those things, and it helps us to down the road to heal and to forgive, when we realize that sometimes people can't give you what they never had. you know my mother, and I know this is Father's Day, but I don't think she was raised with a lot of I love yous and hugs and all these things. But over time we were able to break her down as a mother and keep telling her that we loved her. And so over time she was able to say I love you. We knew she loved us by the things that she did, right? But over time, you got to give people time to heal, and over time they can do that. But I want to talk a little about father wounds. Father wounds can come from absence. They can come from rejection. They can come from harsh words. There were some people that never had kind words given to them. Everything was harsh and hard. And so they grow up and don't know how to take compliments and things because they're so used to being around so much negativity and harshness. There could have been a lot of inconsistency in their life. Maybe they moved around a lot. Maybe the home situation wasn't ideal. Maybe it was more of a survival type thing. Emotional distance could be again because they didn't receive it. You don't automatically know how to give something that you have never received. Some were abandoned, right? Some just had a lifetime of broken promises. People always saying things they're going to do and never come through. Fathers that never come through. Some came through very abusive situations. Some came from neglect, and some just were never affirmed. So when we say it's Father's Day, let's give honor to fathers. Again, it doesn't always mean the same thing to everybody. So we have to have a little empathy during this time. And so the word father sometimes brings comfort to some, while for others it just have a open up a whole bag of questions. Why wasn't he there? Why didn't he choose me? The little boy or the little girl inside of us. Why couldn't he love me the way I needed? He can't give you something he didn't have. Why was he present for others and absent for me? We don't know the circumstances. We don't know the situations. A lot of times we don't know some things that might have transpired, you know, during or before your conception or right after. We just don't know. And so why did I grow up without that covering? Sometimes it depends on who that father is and what road they traveled or traveling. Sometimes it's a blessing. Sometimes it's for protection for you because of the lifestyle perhaps that they chose or found themselves caught up in. And so there are different reasons. And so if we stay in this why me, why me, why me, We may never get to that place of healing that we need to be. We can say something like Father's Day is joyful for some and is painful for others, and we know that to be a fact. We can honor the idea of fatherhood while still being honest about the pain connected to your own father. You know, it's like that pain never leave because most people want a father and a mother in their life. Most people want that. Most people want a good mother and a good father in their life. And what is a good mother, a good father? You have to define that. You know, you each person have their own definition of that. What I might see it as, you might see it as something totally different. So I can't persuade it one way or the other, but it's whatever that idea is that you have. So let's look at this. Sometimes you can have a father in the home, but you can still feel like you're unseen. You can still feel like you're unheard, or you can still feel like you're unloved emotionally. Why is that? He's in the home, but is he connected in, or is he emotionally not available? You know, being in the physical and being in the emotional, two different things. Physical presence does matter, but emotional presence also matters. You're in the house, you're in the chair, but you don't talk to anybody. What's going on? What kind of father pain is he dealing with that he's not able to overcome or has not been able to overcome so that he can be emotionally present for those who need him to be emotionally present? You can go through your life upset because your father wasn't emotionally present for you, but then don't be the man in the mirror where you're not emotionally present for your family, for your wife, for your children. So a father can be in the house, but it can still feel like he's far away. He's never there, never have any conversation with you, never come out and throw the ball with you, don't watch the sports games with you, don't include you in anything, don't take you fishing, don't. So they can be physically present and you can still feel like they so far away from you. They can provide hard workers. We got fathers that are hard workers, make sure that the house is taken care of as far as you have a place to sleep, the lights are on, the water's on, there's food, you got clothes, you got what you need for school, providing for you financially. But emotionally, there's a whole bunch of gaps there, just not present, not there. You know, a father can be respected and still not be emotionally connected. So what do we do about that? What can we do about that? We got to pray that they get healed, right? So that they can be emotionally present for us. So we're not blaming fathers. We're just saying that there are some hurting fathers. There are some emotionally detached fathers, because they might be going through something and they're going through it silently and they're not including the closest people to them that maybe they can talk it out or talk through it so they can get through it, but they hold it and they're trying to work it out for themselves, and don't realize the gaps of the emotional gaps that they're leaving with on their family. So we're not blaming you, but we just want you to be healed, right? So that you can be present, not only physically, but that you can also be present emotionally. Not just be in the room, but be about the room. Understanding what's going on around you and the children, what's going on, what are their academic achievements, what are their athletic achievements, what are some of the things that they're doing and going toward their passions and they're doing really well at, and they need affirmation from their father, the man in the house that is emotionally detached from them. But we still gonna honor you because you taking care of house. You taking care of it. We just want you to be more emotionally present. So sometimes what hurt us was not what was done, but what was missing. You know, so sometimes that hurt comes from some things that are missing. You know, not so much the things were being done. Now I want to try to wrap this up. Now I understand when we talk about, some people say you just got to forgive them, you just got to be healed, you just got to move on. Now I understand everything is a process and some things are just not that easy. But are you willing to let Jesus Christ heal you completely from these things? Whether you the father that can't be present or have not been present emotionally, or the child on the other end, or maybe the grown adult that's still holding on to what they wish, uh, the kind of father they had, wishing that they still had that kind of father, you know. But if that father's still living, I'm going to tell you what, there's still an opportunity to bring that thing together while they're still living. And so sometimes you got to just let it go for the greater good and for what's more important, right? And so, forgiveness doesn't mean that you pretend it didn't happen. Forgiveness is not necessarily saying that the pain doesn't matter. Forgiveness is not always reconciliation. Just because you forgive don't mean you're going to become buddies, because there's some things, there's some things that some families have gone through that sometimes just the forgiveness is so that you can move on in your life. You let them know you forgive them, maybe, but the forgiveness will come here and reconcile. I mean, but you may not always come to a place of reconciliation. We may not become buddies, we may not become visiting friends, but we have this understanding, right? Forgiveness does not always mean access. Doesn't mean that they'll have a part in your life still, because a lot of times it's going to depend on what choices that father has made out there. Is it healthy for you to allow them to gain access to your heart? These are things that I can't answer for you, and I wouldn't dare try. I would never say stay distant from someone. If it was someone you want to connect with, I would just say, if it's a safe place, right, just make sure you're prayerful about it. Make sure that you're in a position that you're strong enough to deal with it, right? Because there are some things that are very hard to deal with. And there are some things that have been great misunderstandings over the years that cause this distance. But if there's a way that it can be reconciled, then God bless you. I'm all for that if it can be. But forgiveness does not necessarily mean that it will be a reconciliation. Okay. And so forgiveness is not releasing the hold that the pain has had on your heart. I'm sorry. Forgiveness is releasing. Forgiveness is releasing that hold that the pain has had on your heart. Is letting it go. It's letting it go and not letting this continue to keep you burdened down, right? So it's helping you to move past it and to be able to healthily move forward. Okay. So some people do need to forgive a father that hurt them. And this is for your personal benefit, right? And some do need to grieve the father that they never had, and some do need to stop chasing an apology. I just want them to apologize. But you might never receive that. So you go through your life trying to chase an apology that you may never get. And some need to just let God heal what has been left unfinished. There's some things, some doors that, there's just some things that just not going to be finished because of perhaps the parties involved or whatever the situation is. But we got to stop chasing things because that's the way we want it. And that's the way we expect it to be. Ask God to help you to release what you need to release, so that you can get past this. As I said, we cultivating gems. Things that happen are not supposed to keep you down a lifetime. It was supposed to help you go through a particular process, but you come out wiser and stronger. and a better person on the other side of that. So um, forgiveness does not erase what happened, but it can release what it has been doing to you, you know. And healing does not always require conversation. It's the thing. You just want to tell them how you feel, you know. And I get that, but you might have to do it in the mirror. You might have to go in the park and do it to a tree if you just feel like you got to get it out, because it may not always be a conversation to the people that hurt you. Sometimes it's not safe to do that. Sometimes it's not. But healing begins between you and God, and that's the honest truth. Healing begins between you and God. You got to go to Him and ask your God, how do I get past this? Because I've been holding on to this for way too long, and I'm ready to let it go. You know, when you get to that place, you know. And then we're going to have grace for those imperfect fathers. There are some that really have tried and still are trying, right? There's some that look back and wish they could have done better. We got to have some grace for people, because as they go through their pain and their healings, we have to have some grace for them and give them an opportunity. If they want to come back to us, let them come back to us. If they've done the work and they're saying, I wish I could have done better, but I can't go back and redo, but I can start from here and move on if you allow me to. But you still want to be bitter and you still want to show them how they hurt you. But listen, they coming and they're asking you. And so open your heart. This is what you prayed for. You can't go back to you 8 and 10 years old. You can't fix that. But we can have it, a conversation today. He said he wish he would have made better choices. He wish he would have done that. But allow me from this moment on to show you who I can be. You know, are you willing to do that? You know, there are fathers that love their children, but they just don't know how to show it. And because it wasn't shown to them, you know, so they're trying to learn it. So let's give them a little grace. There's some dads out there that know they messed up. They want to repair these relationships, but they don't even know where to start, because all they're getting is a bunch of anger and bitterness when they try to approach, and it make them clam back up. You know what I mean? So if you really want them to be a part of your life, I'm going to tell you to just give them a little grace. Give them a little grace. Give them an opportunity, you know, to grow. Give them an opportunity this time to be accountable, and give them an opportunity to allow you all to heal as you're going through. So, and because you're giving them grace, it doesn't mean that you're excusing the wound or the pain that you went through, but it brings you to a place to help you understand that sometimes our parents are parenting from their own pain, from things that they didn't get, and they're trying to do the best that they can, but they were not given what they need to be that best father that you wanted them to be. Give them a little grace. They trying to heal themselves, and they still yet trying to be a father to you. Give them a little grace. If you see they climbing up or staying away because they didn't hit that spot again, and they hurt all over again, and when they get to a place where they feel like they can be a little more vulnerable and come in and be a little more expressive, and then they're being shot down again, I'm going to just say, give them a little grace. It's never too late for a father to grow. It's never too late for a father to apologize. It's never too late for a father to heal. And it's never too late for him to show up differently. But we got to give him some grace. We got to give him some grace. Now I'm getting ready to close out of here. I'm getting ready to close, because I have to bring you back to the spiritual part. For those with good fathers, God's fatherhood may be more familiar, where God is present, I want you to know that whether you had a good father in your life or not, I want you to know that God our Father is a present God. God our Father is a God who sees. God our Father is a Father who covers us. God our Father is a God who restores. God our Father is a God who heals us. Where our fathers might have fallen a little short, I promise you that God can reach those places that father could not. God can reach those places that your father could not. And I want to let you go with this. I have to give you a little thing to check. When you hear the word father, what comes up for you? Is it love? When you think about a father, is it gratitude? You think about a father, is it pain? Is it absence? Is it confusion? Is it anger? Is it grief? Whatever it is, I want you to be honest about it. I'm always giving you those mirror moments, but it has to always start with honesty. Be honest about what you feel in this present time, because healing starts with honesty. And so you have to always be honest about how you feel, what's going on. So I'm going to close now, and I'm going to say to every father who is showing up, trying, learning, and loving, we honor you. To every person that's carrying a father wound, guess what? We see you. To every father who wishes he had done better, guess what? There's still time. There's still room to grow, heal, and to repair. It's still time. You got life in your body. It's still time. And to every heart that feels complicated this Father's Day week, God knows the whole story. Let's talk about fathers with honor, honesty, grace, and healing. I lost my father in 1979. I lost my mother in 2025. And I think about him every day. But my triggers are positive now. I've learned how to turn it to joy. I've learned how to reflect on the memories that continue to live that no one can take away. So I don't cry as much as I used to. Now I just reflect on the good things, and I'm thankful to God for allowing me to have a father in my life that gives me something positive to think back on, to help me pick a man in my life that would mimic what I saw in my dad. And I think I married my dad. It cares for his family just as much. So I'm honored and I'm thankful to God for that. So Father's Day is a celebration for some, a reflection for others, but it's healing for many. God bless you. Minister Nita Kelly, I'm here. AK Ministries, this is Reflections for the Soul. Next week, God willing, 8 o'clock, we'll be back to continue in our heart-to-heart journey. So happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And we do believe in second chances. Just go out there and get your family and allow them to know that you're back and that you're going to be present. God bless you and take care. Minister Nita Kelly signing off now. Reflections for the Soul. I'm cultivating gems. God bless you. Bye-bye.